Hello everyone, my name is Soraya Torres, and today I wanted to talk to you about my short film Breakfast at Rebecca's. So when I first started planning out this film, I knew I wanted to make something different. I wanted to make something lighthearted and funny, in contrast to what I usually like writing and filming, which are projects with darker and more dramatic themes to them. So the main story here is this girl named Rebecca, who starts off watching her father leave the house before going about her morning as usual. At first, she's just doing normal things like making a bowl of cereal for herself. But then we meet these four other strangers sitting at the dining room table, who are staring back at Rebecca with angry expressions. We aren't sure who they are, or why they are there, but as the story progresses, you start to understand why Rebecca is waiting for her dad to leave, and why she's meeting up with these people in the first place. I wanted there to be some build-up with the story, where you don't just immediately know what's going on, but as the story progresses, you start to better understand the story and the reasoning for each character's action. Originally, the four characters were intended to be ghosts, but from my feedback throughout the weeks, people were interpreting them as just figments of Rebecca's imagination, so I decided to leave the ending vague so it could be open to anyone's interpretation, whether they saw them as ghosts or just all in Rebecca's head. I also wanted the story to be very point of view driven, to make it feel like the viewer was part of the arguing in a way, instead of just watching it unfold. I researched a lot for this film when it came to dialogue and costume design, but one thing I was sure of right from the start was that I wanted the characters to be filmed in POV shots. I took inspiration from the basement scenes in That 70s Show, where the camera looks like it's spinning around the table and landing on each character before they start talking. Each character is positioned at the center of the frame, and their eye line is directed towards the person who was speaking previously. I also did a lot of research when it came to characters' dialect and costume design. For example, Gretchen is a woman who lived during the medieval ages, so her dialogue had to sound proper and more like an old English language. Her costume was a white peasant dress with a red corset over it that we ordered for the film, but the funny thing about that dress is that it actually arrived late. So our first shots of the film actually have Gretchen in a cream off-the-shoulder blouse, and then we had to reshoot a month later so we could use the dress. Brent's character serves as the complete contrast of Gretchen's character. Where she is more proper in her vocabulary, his dialogue is more colloquial, and his outfit gives off a kind of 90s look, showing that he's a kid from the streets who wasn't taught hard work like she was. Meanwhile, Dolores is dressed in an apron and holding a spoon. She's covered in flour and looks completely disheveled. Her character was meant to resemble the typical housewife of the 50s, always told to take care of the kids and the house while the husband was out working. Her dialogue was originally meant to sound more proper, but I didn't want it to get mixed in with Gretchen's, so we changed it and kept focus on her role as a mother instead. Dolores' scenes were also reshot, because those first scenes that we shot were late at night, and the lighting just wasn't working with her skin tone and her costume. Then there's Juan's character, and the funny thing about his character is that most of his dialogue was improvised. Originally, he was just going to be a character who didn't understand what was going on, but as I was making the script, the actor playing the role thought it would be funny to add his character searching for the hypothetical light that you're supposed to see after you pass. Of all the costumes, his was the easiest to pick out. I wanted him to resemble a typical Spanish farmer with a button-up shirt that was all wrinkled up. The only thing I wished we had was a straw hat, but we just couldn't find one in time. His scenes were shot at 6 in the morning, which gave the lighting a darker feel to it that at first I wasn't happy with, but then I just decided to incorporate it with his storyline of feeling out of place and searching for the light to cross over. In contrast to the lighter scenes with the other characters where they aren't trying to find that light, and they feel perfectly fine where they are. I think the hardest character to dress up was the dad, because he's played by the same actor that played Juan, and I wanted him to look entirely different so the two characters couldn't be associated. The black wig was actually his idea, but it worked perfectly with creating that distinction between the two. Shooting with people who aren't experienced in acting was not an easy task, but I think we were all able to learn from the experience and had fun developing these characters and shooting the film. I think the biggest struggle was just getting them to stop laughing at some of the scenes that, out of context, seemed really silly to do.
Cut.
Okay.
It took a lengthy spell to get here.
Okay.
Wait a minute.
Okay. I think what made it a bit weirder for them was the fact that every actor was shot separately. So when you're watching Brent talk to Juan, there's actually no one in the chair in front of him. I filmed it this way because I couldn't get my actors to all show up at the same day, but I think it worked out better than I expected. One thing I'm glad we did was rehearse each actor before we started filming. I actually have footage of each character rehearsing their dialogue and me explaining what it is they will be doing and where to look. This helped a lot when shooting the actual scenes because it helped the actors feel more comfortable and know what they were doing and where to look.
Okay, first, yep.
I'm not using this, it's just we're rehearsing.
Okay.
Rebecca, what?
What do you mean, what? You're late again.
Okay, you're gonna be looking this way, by the way. When you say that, you have to look this way. Well, because she's gonna sit there. Juan, dressed in Spanish farming clothes, looks around with a blank expression. You don't know what's going on.
What is a blank expression?
Yeah, like that, like. You don't know what's going on, yeah. But what I am most proud of are the 2 argument scenes in this film. Because believe it or not, they were entirely improvised. None of what the characters said was in the script, except for Rebecca's scenes. All I did for those shots was tell my actors to look in a certain direction and scold the other person. I did give them cues as to why they were yelling at the other character, and for being their first time acting, I'm still impressed with how well the dialogue fit together. That part is just improvised, just say a few lines in Spanish and you're fighting with all of them. Then that part that I think you have it highlighted, that's basically just improv. Just yell at him. He's not there, but just yell at him. Yeah, no, you need to improvise that part. Just yell random things at them, that's what I have against you. But overall, I think this film was a fun experience that had its ups and downs through the course of the 3 months it took to film it. And I was able to learn a lot from shooting and editing, and especially from the feedback I was given. I'm really proud with how this turned out, and I'm proud of my actors and all the work they put into creating their characters and giving them a sense of realism that an audience can connect with. I'm proud of how much I learned in editing this film as well, with transitions and lighting and especially the audio. This was a fun learning experience, and I hope you can all enjoy the final results as much as we did creating it.